to sell wholesale, you've got different regulations. So if you wanted to, 1, hire staff to sell your honey, 2, do online sales, 3, sell wholesale retail, means that I sell to you and then you sell it in your shop, okay? Or you wanted to sell like to restaurants or bars that are going to turn around and use the product in something else, you have to meet a whole other list of regulations. Okay, so first and foremost, you have to have a Texas food manufacturing license. You have to get that every 2 years. It costs, it's $104 if you do up to $25,000 in sales, okay? So I'm gonna presume you're all gonna start in that category. So up to $25,000 in sales, it's $104, you're just paying money to the state, okay? So you gotta have a manufacturing license. This is a hard one. You have to process your honey in a commercial kitchen. Now, I do mostly comb honey, meaning I cut squares out of frames and put it in a box. I have to do that in a commercial kitchen that's been inspected by the health department. Okay. In a bit, if y'all remind me when we get to Q&A, I'll give you some ideas on how to find a commercial kitchen if you want to go this route outside of the norms renting a kitchen, because that can be hard to do. If you're going to sell across state lines, meaning like online sales, you have to do an FDA food facility registration. You just go online and you can do it in 30 seconds. It's very simple. Chapter 131 of the Texas Agricultural Code, by the way, is going to lay out a lot of these regulations. There's FDA food labeling requirements, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. I learned this one last year. I'm constantly learning. The health department visited me last year, like they always do, and because I process my honey in a facility that's different than where I store my honey, I am also required to buy a warehouse license, which basically means I pay the state more money, okay? You're getting a feel for what this is, right? It's just about money. So you have to have a warehouse license if you store separately from where you extract. And then finally, the local health regulations. So these I can't tell you, I don't know all the county rules and the city rules, but I can give you a quick story. I'm in Austin, and the city of Austin, the Travis County regulations are a nightmare. And the fees, as you can imagine, are out of this world. So what we do, and most of the small food producers in Austin do, is we go to Williamson County to the north or Hays County to the south. Because if you call either of those counties and say, hey, I have a honey business, what do I need to do? They're gonna say, don't call us, that's not our business, call the state. So you only really have to follow the health department rules of the state, right? So if you live in, I don't know the rules of Dallas and Houston, but it might be something similar where the bigger cities have more regulations and more fees and fines. So we drive to Williamson County and we cut our comb honey and bottle there and then bring it back to our facility in Austin where we have our warehouse license, okay? Let's see. Okay. Any questions about the regulations before we move on? Okay. The rest of this presentation is going to hopefully give you some ideas on how to get the most for your money and where you want to sell it. As I mentioned, I want you to get as much as you can. So, before you do anything else, this is going to sound super ridiculous. You guys, I get the most per ounce per honey in the state of Texas. Granted, I have a very good market, right? I live in Austin. It's a different market than like where I grew up in Smyre, Texas, population 400, right? But even still, this may seem silly, but I promise this process works. So, first of all, I want you to define your audience or your ideal customer, right? So I went so far as to what was their age, what was their income level, what were their interests, were they single, were they married, did they have kids, right? Sounds super silly, but I promise that will tell you so much about what you sell, what size you sell, what your label should look like, and maybe even where you sell, right? So think about who would most likely be your customer, okay? Secondly, I encourage you to listen to your customer, whomever that is. They will tell you everything that you need to know, okay? So we've tweaked our products over the last couple of years because we do a really good job of listening to our customers. And again, your audience is probably going to be different than mine. And I'll go through some examples here in a minute that will kind of depict that. But I think it's really important to look at who is going to be most likely to buy your honey wherever you are. Okay. So, my notes are so small, I'm having to like, maybe I'm getting older, I'm not having good eyesight anymore. I'm having to like make the font bigger so I can read the darn things. Okay. So what is branding? So branding is the cornerstone of your business, right? If you really want to make money at this is where you need to start. Branding is a marketing strategy that entails creating a recognizable name and image, okay? So the branding is the look and the feel and the emotion that people experience when they see your product. It may sound hooey, but I guarantee you, each one of you has been subjected to all sorts of branding that made you not buy something or buy something in that room right here. Okay, if you think about it, you could think of probably at least 4 or 5 reasons why you bought something or why you did it, and the vendor could have done something differently to affected your decision. Okay, so think about how many times you've gone to the store, honestly, and you've bought something purely on how it looks. Ladies, we're big on this. Okay, I have celiac, that means I can't have gluten. There is a pizza at the grocery store that's gluten-free and it tastes awful. And I still buy it because I really like the box and it's super cute and I feel good when I buy it. So that sounds stupid. I promise all of you do the same thing in one way or another. Okay, I promise. So, put some thought into what emotions you would want someone to get when they look at your honey, they feel your honey, they take it home. Okay, so put a little bit of thought into that. And again, that goal relates back to your audience. Another thing that I want to point out is brand loyalty here is really important. Okay, I've got lots of people that won't buy any other honey than mine. Lots of people that aren't that way, but I've got lots because they've developed a trust in me and my product, and I think honestly they don't actually trust anyone else to sell them honey. That's where you want to get, okay? You want to have brand loyalty. So let's go through a little bit of how you would do this for yourself, okay? So think about, we've got our audience and we've thought a lot about what we want, what emotions we want our product to emote, right? Okay. So then you're going to think a little bit about how might that impact your logo, or colors, the name, the tagline. So 2 Hives Honey, it sounds really nice off the tongue. 2 Hives Honey, I just think it's nice to say, okay? So think about these kinds of things. You can get some input from your potential customer, right? So if you've defined who your potential customer would be, you can get their input. Do you like this? Do you like this? Does this colors? Are you drawn to these colors? Are you drawn more to these colors? And when you're going through this process, you can definitely invest some time, and you can even invest just a little bit of money. I am not a designer. Design is not my strong suit. I know what I like, but I couldn't design anything to save my life. But here's a couple of really affordable resources for you guys when you're thinking about your labels. So 99 Designs and Fiverr are both websites that you can go online. 99 Designs in particular, you pay a flat fee and you get 99 different designers that compete for your business, okay? So you can define kind of what you're looking for, and then when you go with someone, you can then together start to iron out the details of the logo or the label, okay? When you pick something, right, if you pick a color scheme or a logo, try to be consistent, okay? I think the biggest problem that I see with small honey producers is that they've got one bee on this jar and then a different kind of bee on this jar, and over here they're using red and black, and then over here they're using pastel pink and a pastel blue, right? You're not building brand loyalty or a recognizable brand if you're all over the place, okay? So stay consistent with what you decide. Doesn't mean you have to use the same label, but you want to use the same colors. You certainly want to use the same logo. Even keep yourself to no more than 2 or 3 fonts, right? Keep the same feel throughout. Consistency is really, really important. And, be unique. I think we can use unique as derogatory terms are, well, that's unique, that's interesting. But if you look around at your market, right, who else is selling in your area, look at what they're selling and what they might be missing. And I'll give you some ideas for some different products in a bit that you might not have thought of. But we do comb honey in Austin. We're not the only one, but we're the only one that consistently has comb honey. So I've built a really strong following. Now, it took a lot of education on my part to teach people what comb honey was. That they know if they want comb honey, they come to me because I consistently have comb honey. Whereas there's another company in town that does it, but haphazardly. They might do it one season or they might not, okay? So chunk honey is what came next. We started doing comb honey, introducing people to comb honey, what that was, and we found people that were interested but were a little hesitant to go all in, so we started doing comb honey, which is a bit of chunk honey. We started doing chunk honey, which is a bit of comb honey in a jar, and then we fill it full of liquid honey, okay? So this is a great product for my market because people are interested in comb honey but maybe a little bit nervous about what to do with it. With this, they get the best of both worlds. They get a little bit of comb honey to try, but then they get a lot of what they're most used to, right? So look around and see what other people are doing and how you might fill the gap, particularly if you're in a crowded market. I will say though, unless your market's super crowded, if you get all this right, you're probably not going to have any problem selling all of your honey. And if you sell through it in 3 weeks, what am I going to tell you?
Too low.
Charge more money. And the less you have, if someone balks at the price, it's okay. You don't have enough for everybody anyway, right? You can start high. You can always lower your prices. It's very hard to raise your prices, but you can always lower them. Start at the high end of what you think you can get, and if it's not working, then you can adjust from there. But again, if you don't have very much, I sell through every harvest. If you don't buy it, that's okay because somebody else will. Okay, so let's go through a couple of exercises. Okay, so this is interactive. I need your help. Okay, so look at these 2 jars for a second. Okay. One on the left and then the 2 on the right. So think about, as you look at them, what words might you use to describe them? What emotions do you feel? What are your feelings about these 2 jars? And by the way, one is not wrong and one is not right. I just want you to see how powerful branding can be. Okay, so let's start with the one on the left. What's some of the words you might use to describe that?
Gross. Bright.
Gaudy.
Gaudy. Did I hear gross?
Busy.
Busy. Busy. Commercial. What do you say?
Gross.
Gross. Gross.
Confusing.
Confusing. Yes. So I've taught this class a dozen times, and confusing and busy and commercial are the 3 that I always hear. Okay. Now let's move to the one on the right. What does that make you feel? Simple.
Clean.
Clean.
Clear. Direct.
Clear. Direct.
Honest.
Honest. Who said that? That is so good. You probably trust the one on the right more so than the one on the left to be real honey, right? Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? And I think it would be hard to understand that unless you put them side by side. Okay, yeah. Simple is another really great one, not plain. We use the word simple.
Illegal.
Illegal. This one also, you see how it says ambrosia and then it says honey and then it says vanilla? I mean, that's where the confusion comes in, like what in the world is in that jar, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so look at those for just a quick second. Okay, let's start with the one on the left. What do you think?
What is it?
Okay, we've got simple, homemade. What is it? Any other thoughts?
Are those marks on the jar?
Oh, that's just someone branded that image and I ripped it. Unfinished. Okay, now the one on the right. And again, no wrong, no right. There is some things I might do differently with each of these, but what about the one on the right?
Artisan.
Artisan, that's a good one.
More expensive.
Expensive. Oh my God, it looks so expensive, doesn't it? Which can be good or bad. What else? Do you know what the one on the right is? I mean, we're in a honey class, so you do, right? But otherwise you might not. So, yes, I think those are all really, really good words. So, a few things. First of all, on the left, well, both of them, there's no label that really, and by the way, you're not allowed to sell honey without it saying honey on it. That's definitely a big no-no with labeling. But there's no label on it, right? I mean, this one's clearly got their logo, but you don't exactly know what it is. I totally believe the one on the right looks expensive, right? That's like a giftable item to me. If I was gonna buy a gift, that's really beautiful. The The one on the left, someone said something, so my only issue with the one on the left is that there's no label. Someone said unfinished, right? I agree. No label, no branding. You're not building loyalty if you don't put a logo on it, right? Also, someone said homemade. Okay, I'm going to take something out of your vocabulary right now. We're never again going to use the word homemade. Handcrafted. Doesn't that sound nice? Handcrafted. Artisanal, someone said that. Artisanal, I don't actually know how to say that word. That's another really good one. Yeah, awesome. So you get a feel for like, this is helpful. Like you're seeing how you got emotions from looking at these jars, whether you recognize it when you're at the store or not. That's real. Okay. I'm going to show you my jars, and I'm just going to tell you some stories of how we got here. By the way, what time did we go till? Remind me. 3:20. 3:20. Okay, good. Lots of time. Okay. So, and I brought them. So after, if you guys want to come up and look, or we can pass them around, I'll tell you some stories about my jars and how we ended up getting to where we are. So I'm very, well, first of all, how do you feel? And you're not going to hurt my feelings if you say something bad. It's okay. I can maybe learn something from you. So tell me when you look at these jars, what do you feel?
I like barbecue sauce. That is almost the same way.
He has barbecue sauce with a similar labeling, so he automatically likes it. You can't plan that, but that's great. What else? There's something over here. Organic. Ooh, I like that one. You know what it is when you see the bee. What else did I hear? It is expensive. So we label all of our jars with the neighborhood where the bees were located. So we call it hyper-local. Yeah, so you might be able to tell, but it says neighborhood honey from, and then we stamp the label. So between the cork and the wooden spoon and the stamp, right, you could say handmade, but we say handcrafted, hand poured, okay? So I'm very particular what I put my honey in. But my honey is a giftable item, okay? So I do more sales in the month of December, direct to consumer, than all other months combined, okay? Because this is something that people feel good about buying and taking home and gifting, right? So that's sort of the unique niche that I've found. Not the strategy for everybody, but I'm just sharing with you where you can take this, right? So mine's a giftable item. We actually get into higher-end art shows where artists display their goods with our honey. Now, the downside to this, these jars are not shippable because those cords will just pop right off, and I've not been super successful with applying the little plastic thing with the hairdryer. So that's a downside to me because I could ship a lot of honey. With a very strong Instagram following, I could ship a lot of honey if I would find a jar that I like that I can ship, but TBD, I'm still working on it. So I like to tell people when they come, my biggest worry is someone will buy a jar and they'll put it in their bag and the cork will pop out and then they get home and there's honey everywhere. So I always say, remember, these jars were fit for form, not function. Don't tip it over because it might leak. Another thing that I want to point out is that both of these are crystallized. I get beekeepers that will come up to me at events and say, you shouldn't sell your honey like that. Well, why? So here's my thought on the topic. A lot of beekeepers go really far to make sure their honey is liquefied before they sell it, and you can do that, but to me, it's going to crystallize again very quickly. I'd rather take the opportunity to educate them on what's going to happen or what's happened rather than they get it home and it crystallized and they think that I sold them something that went bad. Right, so I sell all my honey crystallized. Spring honey crystallizes within about 4 weeks, and then I can ship them, so that's great. So I find it's a constant education process, right? Yes, sir?
How do you ship? I thought you had this hand sell.
If you're under the small producer exemption, but I go through the wholesale, I go through all the process of yes, you can't do online sales unless you go through the big long list of regs that I had up there. So we're looking at doing Whole Foods in Austin, and I'm a little bit on the fence. I don't think this is a grocery store product. I don't think it will do well. Our comb honey, I do think it will do well, but again, Whole Foods is a high-end market. I just don't think this is a grocery store honey. It's not really a farmer's market honey either, right? It's not your weekly honey that you buy. So there's two sides to that coin. A few notes on the labels. Check this out. I don't know if you noticed, but the label's exactly the same on all of them. You should do that. Only because printing different labels is a nightmare. We're actually going to start using a new jar where we have to do new labels. So this was something I kind of accidentally fell into, but my same label fits on everything, and I don't think you really notice it unless I pointed it out. So just, food for thought, having lots of different labels, if you've got lots of different products. A few other things that I'll mention. I wanted my labels to be really simple. I didn't want a lot of busyness on there. So I skewed the health department rules for 2 years, and then I got caught. So I used to not have the ounces on here. This was not here. And then the health department last year was like, you can't do that. You have to the person has to know how much they're buying. I'm like, okay, fair enough. They also, I don't have my name and address on my labels, which you're supposed to. But they said I could just put the zip code and get away with it. So your mileage may vary, but I'm more of a ask for forgiveness, not permission kind of person. I'm not suggesting you should do that. Don't tell the health department I said that if they come calling. But I just wanted to walk you through kind of the iterations of how we got to this label. So now we label everything with the ounces and all that. Okay. This is our comb honey. So I mentioned you guys, this was our first product that we started with. It took me a lot of time and energy so these are the old labels. See now? That didn't have the ounces on there. It took me, by the way, if anybody wants to know where I got these boxes, they're not the clamshell ones. These are from Pioneer Plastics. I get asked that a lot. And these are our comb honey. I didn't bring any, but we've got some at the booth if you wanted to see that. Okay, so let's talk about what you might sell. Now that you've got to get a bit of a feel for how you go through the branding process. So how many are currently selling honey? A few of you, awesome. Oh, hi, you're selling honey. I saw you at Rolling in Dough and Time. What's it called?
Rolling in Time.
That place, yes. That's awesome. I saw it there last week. Okay, so those of you that are planning to sell, do you know what you're going to sell, like the ounces and all that? Put some thought into it. Product type, like I say, look around and see what other people are selling. If you've got a strong, if you're any of the major markets, there's a lot of people selling honey. So maybe look at what they're doing and see what you can do differently. But know if you do a product that a customer market might not be familiar with, the onus is on you to educate them, right? We've done a ton of work in Austin to educate people on what comb honey is. We also sell to farm-to-table restaurants and let them do it for us. So we've got a lot of restaurants that use our honey, and we bring their staff out, put them in bees, teach them how bees make honey, and then they go back, and when they're in the restaurant, the server that comes to the table is really excited to tell you that a bee only makes 1/12 a teaspoon of honey in their whole life. So we've used our customers to help educate our customer base. So you can obviously do jars, comb honey, creamed honey is a really popular one. You do creamed honey, don't you? I can't make cream honey set to save my life, but if you can, it will be very popular. That's honey that's you've controlled the crystallization. I think that you're doing a presentation on it if you didn't do it already today. You control the crystallization, and it's got the consistency of like butter or peanut butter. It's amazing. Infused honey is another one that you can do. Honey straws. Do you think that I can sell honey straws in Austin? No. I would be strung up by my toes. You can't sell plastic in Austin. No. You see that? But you would think, on the one hand, it might be a really popular product, but the fact that it's in, if I could figure out how to put it in a glass paper straw, right? I can't sell that in my market. So think about your market and what's going to work well. Okay. The size, think about the size. Now this can come in hand when you're talking about your pricing strategy. I don't sell anything over, my largest is 9 ounces, and that's my chunk honey. I don't do anything more than that. We do a big comb honey, mostly wholesale to restaurants. Because I can fetch more, I sell through every harvest. I'd rather make, X amount of small jars and make more per ounce than half that much of double that size, right? It's more money for me. So think about that. Now, let me give you the opposite side of that. If you live in a really rural area and you're at a farmer's market, and most of your customers are driving 30 to 45 minutes to see you, what do you think you should probably sell? Larger, right? Because they're not going to see your customer as frequently. So you might want to err on the side of a larger jar.
How many pounds of honey do you harvest a year that you sell out?
Not a lot. We'll do over 2 this year. We'll see. We're pulling now. 2,200 in the spring. And then in the fall, the fall is all over the map. The spring harvest, we'll probably do 2,200 pounds this year. Last year the fall was so poor, but about half that in the fall. So was that 3,000 pounds?
That's impressive to me that you sell out.
And when we get to where to sell, I can tell you all the places that I sell. And I've changed my strategy on that over time. One thing I want to mention is start small. Start with a few products. That honey's not going to go bad. It can sit in the bottling tank. It'll crystallize. You'll have to liquefy it later, but you can try out a few things, right? Don't make this mistake. Don't buy 1,000 jars because you get a price break until you know you want those jars. There's a company called Yellowbird. They do a hot sauce in Austin. They bought 10,000 jars once. They started bottling and found out that jars exploded under the pressure from the vinegar or something. And they spent all this money on 10,000 jars to get a price break that they then couldn't use. Okay, so start small. Once you figure out what you like, then you can invest more. Okay, pricing strategy. I do feel strongly that effective branding equals more money because you'll build a following, you'll find people that will trust you, and they'll come back to you again and again and again and again. So when people say, how much should you sell your honey for? As much as the market will bear. And you might have to play around with that a little bit. Look around at others and what they're selling, how much they're selling it for. But that does not necessarily mean that's your ceiling, right? When I came in to the market in Austin, I immediately was selling. My prices were twice as anyone else, but we've been able to make it work. So that's not necessarily your ceiling, but it's a good starting point to see what you might be able to get. Do not sell anything sticky. If someone takes a jar from you and it's sticky, they probably won't come back. If you go to the grocery store and pick up a can of tomatoes and it's got gunk on it, you're not going to buy it, right? So it's hard because honey is everywhere all the time. It's really, really hard to keep it together. But don't sell anything sticky. The best way that I found, every time we're selling honey, I've got baby wipes and then dry towels. Baby wipe and then dry towel tends to get, if you just baby wipe it, you just spread the sticky everywhere. But think carefully about the size and where you might be able to get more money, right? One story I'll share with you of how we tend to keep each other down instead of bringing each other up. How many is in Facebook beekeeping groups? Okay. They're real negative for the most part. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I'm in a couple of groups, and one of them is for like sideliners, small scale sellers. And one time someone posted a picture of a 4x4 comb honey, and the guy was he was asking for $25. And the picture was posted, and the caption said, "Are you kidding me? Who does this guy think he is?" And I said, "I get 25 wholesale." Why do we want to knock each other down? If your neighbor can fetch $1 more an ounce than what you've been doing, yeah, neighbor, and then I'm going to raise my prices, right? I think overall, honey is far too inexpensive. The real stuff is far too inexpensive. So just keep that in mind. If you've got someone in your market fetching a higher price, that should excite you because either one, you can raise your prices, or two, you'll be able to catch the people that maybe can't afford that higher price, right? Consider branding a few buzzwords. Local, raw, those are totally allowed. I think I'll talk about some labeling here in a minute. I'll get a little bit deeper in that. Okay. A note about packaging. Again, think about what you want the feel to be. Modern, rustic, chic, simple. I sell everything in glass. It feels heavier. People will pay a higher price because it's in glass, because it feels heavier, okay? It's all in our brains. Okay. Let's talk about labeling, okay? So you have to have the name honey on it. You have to have the contact info, name and address. I just have my zip and city and state. I get away with it. Who knows, when the health department comes again, they might change that, but so far I've been able to get away with that. And then you have to have the net weight. Put the net weight on, because the health department doesn't like when you leave that on. You do not have to put the nutritional statement or nutritional info, which is awesome. No nutritional info is required, and there is an infant statement, about you shouldn't feed honey to infants under 1 year old. It's recommended that you do it, but you do not have to put that on your jars.
Tara, on the net weight, I put the grams also, I guess just because of the examples.
You're supposed to.
Okay.
I don't.
I think it's easy.
And the health department said I just had to put the ounces. It's personality driven, I think. So yes, you're supposed to put the dual weight declaration, right? So both systems. I just do the one, and I'm going to do it until, if any of you call the health department on me, I will know. I'm going to try to all of you down. Don't do that. Any of you that are in Austin, I see you. Don't you guys call the health department? Okay, so labeling, real simple. Now, keep in mind that if you put anything in that honey, if you infuse it with cinnamon or anything, you do have to put an ingredients list. Remember that with the ingredients list, the thing that's the most in the product goes first. So I infuse a couple of honeys. So I've got honey, and then I've got infused with, and I've got the things that I infuse with, okay? But you don't have to put the nutritional label if it's pure honey. Okay, I need to go through this faster. Okay, so quick thing on some buzzwords. If you're not heating or heavily filtering your honey, you can use the word raw. Single varietal versus wildflower. So single varietal means all of the nectar, or more than half of the nectar came from a single nectar source. So we've got mesquite honey in our booth. All the nectar came from mesquite trees, right? Wildflower honey is a total branding thing. Everything else is wildflower honey, right? So people think that's a thing and they get really excited about it, but everything that's not single varietal can be called wildflower. So use it if you think that it will work for you. Nutritious, you are not allowed to use this to describe a food. Nutritious can be used to describe a diet only, so do not use the word nutritious. Organic. I've got a website, a blog on my website that tells you cannot use the term organic. I won't go into why, but if you're producing your honey in this country, I don't care what your practices are, you cannot do it. Don't do it. The FDA, USDA takes that very seriously, you guys.
When you list the varietal, Tara, do you know the cons, or do you just guess?
You can have it tested, right? I know mesquite, because the mesquite's blooming. I know the flavor and color and texture of mesquite, so yeah. So I know I get other single varietals that I just don't know.
Okay.
And because all my bees are in urban areas, it would be a lot of work to get them all tested. Yeah, so you gotta have a lot of one single forage in one area to get a single varietal, right? Okay.
Can you go back one screen? And
Yes.
also, how do you get your prices? You mentioned what the market will hold. Are you just picking a number, or do you go to some site to see current?
So I knew that I was bringing artisanal honey. We hand harvest everything by neighborhood, right, in small batches, and so I knew that I wanted to push the market as much as I could. If you're in that category, then you can take that approach. If it's something that you're wanting to do something more common, like mason jars and honey, I would look around and see what others are doing. I wouldn't do less than what they're selling, right? And if you don't have a lot of it, you can do even more. Okay, your family and friends will be really excited to buy from you. So I don't know if that's helpful, but okay. And I want to real quickly go on where to sell, because I want to leave a few minutes for questions. So just some ideas for you. So if you're under the small producer exemption, these first ones are for you. Farmers markets. Know that farmers markets, depending on where you are, it can be kind of hard to get into. They're time intensive and they're kind of expensive. You have to pay every week that you're there. Not a huge fan of farmers markets, but if that's your one way to sell in your neighborhood, in your city, it might be perfect for you. I've got a lot of other options where I am. But they can be kind of exclusive in some of the bigger cities. Vendor events, so that would be like something like this, right? Holiday markets, I mentioned I do a lot of those, kind of festivals, trading post days, those kinds of things usually allow vendors, and I think that you would do really well at those. Holiday markets, the thing with holiday markets is that you have to get in real early. So the bigger markets, if you're in a bigger city, I've already applied for all my holiday markets, like as of 6 weeks ago. Applications come in early. So if that's something you want to do, if you live in Dallas or Houston, know that you got to apply real early. Direct online sales, this is something that you cannot do unless you go through the wholesale regs, right? You get all the FDA facility registration and all that licensing. eBay and Etsy are other places that people sell honey. People do that. I don't know how they do well because that feels like very impersonal and lacking of a human touch, but plenty of people do. Austin Honey Company and Austin sells on Etsy. If you're gonna go the wholesale route, you've got a whole other list of options afforded to you. Grocery stores, different little markets. I know people that sell in doctor's offices, gift shops, hotel chains, boutiques. This is what I do a lot of hotel boutiques, restaurants, bars. We sell to a lot of bars and restaurants that use our comb honey like in their dishes. And again, just keep in mind the new small production exemptions only apply to the first ones on the list, and if you're direct selling, okay? Let's see here. Okay, that being said, making honey is really hard work. You've got the live animals, you've got weather, it can be profitable, but before you make a large investment, make sure that you've got your ducks in a row and it's gonna work for you. It's very rewarding, but again, I wouldn't keep bees just to make honey. You've really gotta be invested in the bees for them to make honey. It's just funny how that works out. In my class earlier, I said if you keep bees for the honey, you'll always be disappointed. If you keep bees for the experience, you won't. So learn your bee skills, and once you get there, your ability to make honey will be a whole lot easier because you know what you're doing. This is me. I've got some cards up here, but do I still have a few minutes to take questions? Okay, I've got a few minutes to take questions. Sorry that took longer than I planned. Yes, sir.
So pardon my ignorance, but if you feel that your honey is made a certain way that's really unique, is there such a thing as patenting?
Okay, so let's talk about, so you can trademark. So my logo is trademarked and my name is trademarked. So I had a business using 2 Hives honey on Instagram and I got them to stop. So you can do that. I don't think you're gonna be able to patent like the process by which you make your honey or that you have lavender honey, but you certainly can trademark your logo and your labels, and if you get really into this, that's really important to me. I had people following this account that they thought it was me, so you can do that. That's not a stupid question. Okay. Any other questions?
Can you elaborate on your comb honey?
Yes.
As far as what your customers, what do
they do with it?
Yeah.
So it's a constant education process. When someone comes to me to sample honey at the booth, I always say, have you had comb honey? And if they say no, I say, oh, let's start there. And I say, so comb honey is the rawest form of honey that you can get. This is the bees made it in their own little package. And I sample it to them and I say, when you eat it on its own, you're going to be left with a little bit of the wax in your mouth, but when you eat that with food, you don't get that. And comb honey, the wax gives the honey a texture and a bite that you just don't get from regular honey. So when you put honey on your yogurt and it gets all liquidy and runny and runs everywhere, when you put a bit of comb honey on it, it stays in its own package and you get to partition out just the perfect amount of honey. But if you put it on a piece of hot bread and the wax and the honey melts on the comb, you'll feel like you died and gone to heaven. I promise you, you'll never turn back. And I always say, I don't even eat my own jars of honey, I only eat comb honey. So you gotta get like your spiel, right? But I think giving people ideas of how to eat it, cheese and crackers is kind of the ubiquitous way. Hot bread, on a sweet potato that's really hot, mashed up with cinnamon is really good. It's my favorite winter treat. So, you've got to kind of find, but those are the things that I share with people. I have a website a page on my website that says what is comb honey and how do you eat it. We're actually going to put that website on washi tape, and and we're gonna tape it across the top of the boxes so that I can say, oh, if you go to this website, you'll get lots of recipes for comb honey. So that's in the works.
Oh, very good.
Okay, so if you sell to, or you, I don't know that you sell to boutiques, but if you display it at boutiques and places like that, how does that work? Do they pay for all of it up front, or do they
Oh, that's such a good question I need to put in here. Okay, so if you sell to boutiques, what does that transaction look like? So you can do consignment, meaning that they only pay for what they sell, right? Or you can do wholesale retail. I don't like consignment because when the honey leaves my shop, I don't want it to come back. So wholesale retail, generally most people expect 50-50, meaning like if I charge $20 for this jar of honey, I will charge a wholesale retailer 10 and they will turn around and sell it for 20. That's usually the way that it works. Because I sell through, I have a little bit more power. I take more than that. I usually do a 65-35 split. Now, that means they can sell for whatever they want. I sell these for 20. I have gift shops in Austin that sell it for 24, okay? So they make up the difference and they sell it just fine. But that's usually the way that relationship works, and I prefer that over consignment.
But if you're working under small business,
Then you can't do that.
Right.
but are you allowed to sell to the vendor? You're selling personally, you know what I'm saying?
No, because it's considered wholesale. If they're gonna turn around and resell it, then it's considered, then you would have to do, now let's talk very quickly about that. So if you wanna go through that process, I mean, you're talking about $100 in fees, not a huge amount, but what's really the hitch is the commercial kitchen. So let me give you some ideas. You can rent a commercial kitchen. You may not have one of those in your area, but you know who has an inspected commercial kitchen? A church and a school. If you've got a church or a school in your neighborhood, even if it's like a small town, you're gonna deal with them to rent the kitchen maybe after hours. Do that, do the license, then you can sell at all of those places that I mentioned. So it's not a huge financial investment if you can find a commercial kitchen that's already in play. You also can build a honey house that's inspected, but I don't do that. I actually rent from someone else. And then you also can rent commercial kitchens which are designed for this process. But again, things like schools and churches, those count. Yes, ma'am?
There were some changes recently in the small cottage law or something that were changing some of that, and I don't.
This legislation session, they added more products to the cottage law. So honey doesn't come under the cottage law, it has its own. There were some proposed changes that didn't make it through to
I
honey.
thought they were pretty honey.
Yeah, they did. They made their own law for honey about 4 years ago. But there were some proposed changes to that law this session that would have allowed people from other states to come in and sell their honey under the small producer exemption, which would be wrong, and that did not pass. So, what other questions do you have?
Okay, one more time, I know this is probably stupid, but okay, let's say you have your honey.
Yes.
And you have a wonderful friend who lets you sip your honey, who's making nothing off of your honey. Is that still considered?
And what they would be selling it for you? What would they be doing? Sorry.
Yeah, they're just collecting your money, but they're not making a profit.
If they're not a member of your immediate family, they cannot collect money on your behalf.
Adopted.
Yes.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So if it's your immediate family and they have a shop,
No. Ooh. If they had a shop and they were selling, and you didn't have anyone else in the shop selling it, then yes. So like, I guess if I owned a shop and I was there every day and I was the only one that sold it, and then I guess so. We're getting a little bit into like some gray area, but
You spoke earlier, immediate family is not well defined by the state or by the federal government.
And this is a state law. This is a state law. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to identify immediate families or the word family.
Yes, that's correct. And it's a state law. And you can call the health department, the state health department, and ask questions anonymously. We do it all the time. I'm always trying to push the envelope. Yes, ma'am.
Change of direction. Where do you have your labels printed?
Oh yeah, good question. I have them printed they're actually stickers. So they're technically stickers, and the difference with a sticker and a label, but I have them printed as a shop, and I find that the price of printing stickers are cheaper than printing labels when they're the same thing.
Now we're using Avery, which is gonna get really expensive.
Yeah, so you can, like, mine cost me 24 cents a label. I know, because every time my staff messes one up, I'm like, put 24 cents in the jar.
So just go online and search for stickers.
Yeah, so Print Runner, I have not used Print Runner to print stickers, but Print Runner prints these for me. I try wherever I can to support other local businesses, so all our labels are printed by a local print shop in Austin. But Print Runner prints these, they do a great job and they're very affordable, so check them out.
And the washi tape.
The washi, where am I gonna get the washi tape? Oh, I can't remember the name of the, if you send me, I can get it for you, I can't remember the name of them. But they do personalized washi tape, but it's not a local business, I'm doing that online.
What? Washi tape?
Washi tape, do you know what washi tape is? It's like decorative tape.
Change your life if you're a woman.
Oh my God, washi tape is, if I die, just wrap me up with washi tape and put me in the ground. I love washi tape. It's just a decorative tape.
We need to get out more.
What, yes ma'am?
Sorry, I'm full of questions.
That's okay.
Trademark your logo. Is there a website?
Yes, I did not do it myself. You could. I hired a lawyer. The trademark in of itself costs about $300 for everything, and you trademark for a category. So like Two Hives Honey is trademarked for honey. If I wanted to trademark it for education, that would be another $300. But I just have it trademarked for honey. Yes.
There's a federal government website that's trademarked.
Oh, yes.
And you can also go in there and look up and get an idea if you want. You can put it in Two Hives Honey.
Yes. You can go on and see who owns what trade. Yes. Thank you very much. There's a database. It's a very good tip. When you're choosing your name, you know, if you plan on getting bigger, I would go through all those steps. Any other questions?
Well, how much time, Tara, beekeeping takes so much to me and I think it's hard. But how much time do you spend marketing? I'm so impressed with what you've told us you've done with your company.
Oh yeah, and I didn't come back to like where all do I sell. Yes, so marketing is not my background. It just turns out I'm fairly good at it.
I can see.
Instagram has been critical for me. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of work, but once it gets going, the traction, it snowballs, right? So I worked really hard for what I thought was a really unique idea, putting the neighborhoods on the honeys. I'll tell you this, if you want to go big with this, find someone that shares your customer but is not a competitor. Okay, so like Antonelli's Cheese, which is a high-end cheese shop in Austin, they are like the kings of cheese in Austin. They were my first buyer. I got so much credibility because I was on the Antonelli's Cheese shop. I was only doing about 500 pounds that first year. I could have easily done the small producer exemption, but I went the extra step because I knew I wanted this to be big. And so having Antonelli's, me being on their shelves gave me so much marketing that I was making money off of. That was really big for me. So finding people that share your customer that aren't your competitor is really key, I think, in any small business and promoting one another. I don't remember what the question was or that I answered. Marketing, yeah. Instagram has been huge for me. My key to Instagram is like, I am my authentic self. When I split my pants one day, I didn't show it, but I was on Instagram talking about how I split my pants. Like, what an awful day. Like, people buy into authenticity. So it's not hard because it's just my authentic, ridiculous, silly self, right? But social media is huge for me. And some things for you guys, like, I promise you get your crop, you go on Facebook, if you do Facebook, and say, hey, I have honey, here's the jars for sale. Put a label on it. I see so many on Facebook with no label, new label. They will, I almost can assure you they will be gone, very, very quickly. So start with your immediate friends and family. If it's going well, I know a gal, she harvests very little honey, but there's one little shop, there's one little market in High, Texas, out in the hill country, And every time she harvests, she goes down to the high market and they buy her a little batch of honey. She makes like 200 pounds a year, but they'll buy everything from her because people love that there's a honey produced in High a mile up the road. So think about these unique opportunities. Like I say, doctor's offices, I've seen it in doctor's offices. People are very into bees at the moment. Everyone wants to hashtag save the bees. So if we can benefit from that, you're a real beekeeper, you do the hard, real work, you're probably doing all the things the right way. I don't think you have a problem moving it. Any other questions? I think maybe we're all. I'll hang around are we out of time? Okay, I'll hang around if you guys need anything.